Hello and welcome to Beheaded.
Welcome to Season 7, Episode 2.
I'm Megan Moore.
And I'm Elizabeth Black.
Your house is quite festive, Elizabeth.
Well, thank you. I love hosting you this evening. I think I've mentioned this on the show, but I put up my decorations so freaking early. Like, literally, October 31st rolls around. I let, Dia de los Muertos kind of simmer for a day or two, and then it's Halloween down, Christmas in.
That's a quick turnover.
I know. And I used to, trust me, for years and years, I would wait until Thanksgiving or December 1st to do official Christmas stuff. And now I don't care. Robbie loves Christmas, so he's excited about it. We're Christmas up immediately as soon as we possibly can.
Well, you align with Disneyland, right? I remember we talked about this. I think we had, this is our annual conversation, I think.
Do we say this every year? Are we forgetful old ladies?
I don't remember a lot of things that we talk about, but I remember this conversation. But it's enlightening. I think we have a lot of new listeners getting to know us a little bit. And you love Disney.
I do. And I will say, I think that's the reason why I felt okay putting up decorations. Because I was like, well, when does Disneyland do their whole Christmas time? And it was literally as soon as Halloween ends. And I actually went to Disneyland in October of this year. And they already had snow on the castle.
Really?
On October 10th.
Oh, geez.
Yeah. So I was like, okay, if Disney's allowed to start that early, I'm freaking starting as early as I can. So yeah. And every year I try to do introduce a new element. You saw, you commented, I have an extra tree this year.
An extra tree. We do have an extra tree. You can't, if you're watching the YouTube, welcome. Yes, we are on YouTube. We highly recommend you go check it out.
Yeah.
Just search Beheaded Podcast on YouTube.
Not just Beheaded.
Yeah, just
get weird.
Just a little tip, but it's not in the video right now because we're in the office, but I'm staring in front of me at one of the trees, which is quite beautiful. It's dog themed.
Thank you. I was going to say, we themed it after our rescue dog, and his little picture, the day we adopted him from the shelter, is at the very top. It's a little angel or star on the tree, but the rest is very cute. It's all just a white tree, silver ornaments.
So as we're recording this, it is almost Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
I don't have a single little sprinkle of holiday in my house.
You still have pumpkins from Halloween. But they're I
think out of laziness.
Well, they're autumn pumpkins, though.
They're fall foliage pumpkins.
Yeah, that counts.
But I'm just I did see a funny video today. It was let us all give a moment of respect to the husbands and partners today carrying up the Halloween decorations or carrying down the Halloween, or not Halloween. Sorry, Christmas. Yeah. I don't know what holiday we're in. Carrying up or down the Christmas decorations. And I got to ask the favor soon. I got the big bucket in the garage up on the rafters, and the time has come to ask him to bring it down, which is in itself a pain.
It's Thanksgiving week. You have to put it up this week, I feel.
I don't have to do anything. You know what I always thought was weird? One of my biggest pet peeves is in the movie The Christmas Story, or A Christmas Story. Sorry. In A Christmas Story.
Yeah.
How they decorate the Christmas tree. They get the Christmas tree and decorate the Christmas tree on Christmas Eve.
That's stupid.
And I'm like, what a waste. Yeah. Same with Mickey's Once Upon a Christmas.
Oh, wow.
He's selling Christmas trees on Christmas Eve, and that irks me. Because that is not enough time to appreciate the tree.
I feel ya.
One night?
It's more because, in a Christmas movie, they have to theme it around Christmas week. So you're what do you do on Christmas week? And they're not just going to, stare at each other and not work.
The night before
they
just
have
seems
to act oh, you put up a tree and you decorate it. Even though you do that 4 weeks before.
It feels manic. It feels unprepared. It feels undisciplined to just go and find a tree at 9 o'clock at night.
Well, when you were a kid, when would you put up Christmas?
First of all, my mother took care of absolutely everything, and I was not allowed to decorate the tree.
Hell yeah.
I think because
go Lisa.
To this day, I break a lot of things.
I was gonna say, is it because your nickname is Slips?
There are a lot of broken ornaments in my name.
Nice.
Even just setting up last week when we set up, it was the event of, at one point, literally everything in our video and audio recording setup, I tripped and it all fell and collapsed at once.
To clarify, you're saying set up for our podcast.
For our podcast. Sorry. Yeah. In my brain. We were setting up last week for the podcast, for the audio and the video, and just everything fell over. And imagine that, but with Christmas trees. That's me. And that's why I'm not allowed to touch anything.
I think we bent a few like cord, what do you call them, connector points. There was a few things, but it was good. I told Megan, I'm like, when we first started this podcast, we had first, very first time, like Guitar Hero microphones. And then we upgraded to like a Yeti microphone that we shared
For years.
for years. And then we just introduced like video maybe a year or two back. So now, like, if you guys haven't seen our YouTube, or again you're new to the show, we got new microphones. Thank you to everyone who contributed to those last year.
We named them.
We named them.
We named them.
actually.
Wait, but which one's which?
I think I'm Pain. I think you're Panic.
That makes sense. So our mics have names. Our Blue Yeti, our old microphone, was named the Iron Maiden. So we have to like go with the theme of naming,
Torture.
torture. So yes, Elizabeth, we have to give you credit for these names. Introduce.
Yeah, well, I was gonna say, I was like, there's so many names you can go with, like duos in history, and like we've called them dragons in the past. Like, should we name them after dragons? Should we name them after queens? And it came to me, I was like, you know what'd be perfect is Pain and Panic from the movie Hercules. Because A, like obviously we're kind of Disney nerds. B, it's perfect for beheaded, like episodes about torture and execution.
I'm the panic.
You're the panic. I'm
It
the pain.
fits. It fits. It's just suiting.
Megan, drops things a lot. Panic.
Everything's like, it's fine. It's fine. This is fine. This evening, setting up an hour in, I'm like, Elizabeth is watching me talk to myself. I'm like, this is fine. This is okay. This is going to work. Why is it working? It's not working. Why is nothing working? Like, I'm the panic and you are.
I'm just the pain.
You're just the pain.
I don't know how to put that in any other words.
Elizabeth's back here going, did you plug it in? Did you turn it on?
I'm like, I think you took a picture of it last time. Refer to that. But it's all good.
It's relevant. I'm very happy for our setup. Thank you for those who helped us make this possible. And yeah, we were kind of just reflecting this evening as we were setting up of, you go back and listen to the first few episodes, I'm cringe over it. I'm ready to take them down, but
I like them. Say what you will.
Yeah.
Everyone gets their start somewhere. I don't think they were too bad. I think by the third episode, we get it. It's good.
Sort of. Maybe I'm harsh. I'm everyone gets their start, and I'm not saying we're great, but we've gotten better.
We've definitely improved. We've taken a lot of feedback. And again, at the end of the day, like a lot of listeners like just the beginning intro where we talk about our lives a little bit. And then a lot of people just want us to skip to the story. And if you're one of those people, skip 10 minutes in, you'll get to
Just
the
fast
story,
forward.
I promise.
Sometimes 20 minutes, we apologize. We like to talk.
And again, we only see each other in our lives like every so often. So we have to catch up. And you're
This
part
is
of it.
it.
And
This is it.
Deal with it.
Wow, I don't know what we just covered. Multiple things
covered-
in one slew of train thoughts.
Holiday decorations and how far we come. And it's the end of the year. And we're super grateful for things in life.
I'm grateful for panic and pain and panic.
Pain and Panic. I like it. I think it's good. Oh, and it's a nod to Greek mythology.
Oh, good call.
Yeah. So all the things. Mine is pain. Hers is panic. And here we go.
And this is Beheaded
And this
Podcast.
is Beheaded. Welcome.
I don't know why I keep calling it Beheaded Podcast now. You notice that?
I've noticed you've done that.
Unintentionally.
I think it's just because you're separating again from any other internet searches.
Any
that could
bad
go
Google searches. Oops, sorry, I didn't mean to kick you.
pain. Used to it.
Panic. I'm so sorry. Alrighty. So we season 7, episode 1.
Yeah.
We went really far back.
Mm-hmm.
And Egyptology is definitely Elizabeth's
Strong
forte
suit.
and strong suit. So if you haven't listened to episode 1, go and listen to it.
Yeah.
I don't know where I'm going with this.
I do. I'll pick up for you. Because Megan's passion is Tudor history. I mean, I love Tudor history as well. I feel like Megan has just read so much more about it. And I feel like you're an unofficial expert. And so
There's a lot of things I still don't know and I still get wrong. And we were going through family trees this evening. And it frustrates me because I wish I could just retain information a little bit better. Once I start rereading, I'm like, oh yes, light bulb. Now it comes back to me. But it gets a little tricky, a little dicey there with the
family tree.
not just the Tudors, but the Plantagenets and the Lancastrians and the Yorks and going all the way back to Edward III or so.
And I think the challenge, and we've said this so many times on our show, but it's like there are so many similar names.
Oh,
And when you pass down titles, the titles can be the same title. So it gets very confusing over time where you're like which Henry, which Edward, which Mary, which Elizabeth, like what's going on. So until you have a firm grasp of like certain storylines, it just takes a while. I mean, we've been studying the same thing for years and years, and we still have light bulb moments or like, oh my God, so and so is
that's that
related to so and
person.
so. So if you're with us, like, it's okay. It's okay to have questions. It's okay to rewind parts. It's okay to look up family trees because it does get confusing, and we're going to work through it the best we can. But
Follow along with us this evening
yeah,
because we are talking this evening about Richard Woodville,
yes.
which leads us into the Wars of the Roses, which is why we're going to have to buckle up here and put our thinking hats on.
I will just say Richard Woodville's story is fairly straightforward, like his life and death. We're going to sum it up, I think, in a nice little package. What we have to acknowledge, though, is that this does take place during War of the Roses. So there's a lot of crazy things going on with warring parts of the family. And again, like who's heir to the throne? It gets so Game of Thronesy and contentious. So again, we're gonna work through his story. That's the whole point of this episode, but we're going to introduce a lot of backstory with War of Roses.
And everyone has the same name.
Yeah.
Not as bad as
Cleopatra?
Cleopatra's family that we went over in the last episode.
Right.
They were literally named the same.
Yeah.
But this one is up there. So I'm gonna take it away, Elizabeth.
I was going to say, I'll jump right in. And then Megan's going to provide a lot of the fun historical context.
Fun. Thank you. I'm the fun part.
I'm gonna stick to the storyline, and you're gonna interject with some cool stuff as we go along.
But I won't interject too much
Right.
because I'm practicing.
It's a learned practice.
7 years later, I might learn something here.
All good. All right. So we're going to introduce our man of the evening, Richard Woodville, the first Earl Rivers, which is a title that he kind of creates for himself with the king's help. So we're going to get into that later. But if you don't know who Richard Woodville is and you're like, who's this person? How does he relate to Tudor history? What are you guys talking about? Just so you know the connection to our other storylines, he is the great grandfather of King Henry VIII. So just before we get into his like story of where he's from and all that, he's the father of Elizabeth Woodville. Elizabeth Woodville marries King Edward IV. They then have a child whose name is Elizabeth of York, and Elizabeth of York is the mother of King Henry VIII. Yeah. So I tried to say that as clearly as possible. But if you have heard of some of these people, again, the main one you probably know is King Henry VIII. Again, his mother, Elizabeth of York, Elizabeth of York's parents, Elizabeth Woodville, and King Edward IV. And if you've heard the name Elizabeth Woodville before, we have referenced her in our Princes in the Tower episode, which is an episode about Perkin Warbeck, who is essentially an imposter who came forward during that time of not being sure of who's taking the throne. So if you're curious more about the Princes in the Tower, that storyline, refer to our episode on that, which was, I believe, season 5, episode 1.
Yeah, and I mentioned in the last episode as season 6, so just ignore me. Figure it out on your own. You can look it up.
You're resourceful.
Yeah, figure it out.
Yeah.
I will also say, if you're anything like me, I'm a little bit ashamed to say this, so I'm sorry, but this is an honest podcast, and I will speak openly.
There's no judgment here.
No judgment. I have to, in my brain, to picture a lot of like the White Queen on, what is it, Showtime, and it's also the Philippa Gregory series of the White Queen,
right? Okay.
Because that has to do a lot with this era and Elizabeth Woodville and her father Richard Woodville. So sometimes in my brain, if I have to remember who's who, I have to think of the actors and remember their dramatic fictionalized story. But it does sadly help me connect the pieces sometimes.
That's okay. I mean, as humans, we're very visual people. We actually talked about this on our Susanna Lipscomb episode too, how like when portraits come into play, we feel like we know the people so much more.
We're better connected.
Yeah. So obviously people that we can see and we feel like we know, even if it's just an actor portrayal, we feel like we understand it a bit better. So that's
inaccuracies in the plot line, but we'll roll with it.
Totally okay. All right. So back to Richard Woodville. So Richard Woodville was born around 1405 in Maidstone, Kent, England. And he is the son of a chamberlain to Duke Bedford. So essentially, he's not noble. He is in the gentry class. And he follows in his father's footsteps of service. So he also becomes this service person to the Duke of Bedford. But he, I think, shows a lot of ambition even in his young age. We don't know a ton about his early life, but we do know but by the time he's 21, so about 14, 26, he becomes a knight. So you don't just get knighted out of nowhere. I mean, you know, you have to kind of like show your what do you say? Like prove your stripes, show your colors, all that, you know, kind of show your worth. So he came forward as a knight when he was freshly 21, and only a few years later he actually goes on to marry the same Duke we just talked about, Duke of Bedford's widow. So he dies.
Ooh.
And then she's left a widow. She's only, I don't know, 19 years
19, I
old at this
think.
time. And her name is Jacquetta of Luxembourg.
I love Jacquetta of Luxembourg. She is a very interesting character in history. And actually, I'm going to reference this book that I read, I'm going to say like last year or 2 years ago. It's called Royal Witches, Witchcraft and the Nobility in 15th Century England by Gemma Holman. Okay. If you're on the YouTube, here it is. I highly recommend this book. It's really cool. It goes over the stories of 3 different women in 15th century England who are all accused of being a witch. And a whole part of this book is about Jacquetta of Luxembourg and Elizabeth Woodville,
Ooh,
as I
love
showed the
that.
picture that no one can see. So anyways, I learned a lot about her through that book. And gosh, she is an interesting figure that just easily overlooked in history.
Right.
Unlike her husband, Richard Woodville, she came from some nobility, and she was only 17 in 1433 when she married her first husband, as Elizabeth mentioned. This Elizabeth, oh my God, your name also is like the same name
I'm
as everyone
sorry.
else.
I'm like, for the purposes of our show, when we talk about tutors, you can call me like
Liz.
Liz.
I've never called you Liz.
I know.
Black? EB?
EB. So you do call me EB sometimes. You can call me
I
that.
can call you
It's fine.
EB. We just like to overcomplicate it. Anyways, Jacquetta marries the Duke of Bedford, who is obviously important, and he's part of nobility, and he's quite fancy. They are quite rich. And
he's also much older than her.
Yeah, he's old. He's not doing so well health-wise. Jacquetta's also, when she marries the Duke of Bedford, then by marriage becomes the aunt of Henry VI.
Right. Who's king.
King Henry VI.
Yeah.
We'll get into King Henry a little bit more. But so she's now very prominent woman in court. She's very important. And Bedford ends up dying. Her husband, Duke of Bedford. Also, I lived in Bedford, New Hampshire. Isn't that fun?
I can't think of Duke of Bedford without thinking of Bedford, New Hampshire. Or you said New Hampshire.
Yeah, that's where I grew up.
Isn't there also a Bedford, Massachusetts?
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay. So I just think of the East Coast.
I think because on the East Coast, they bring a lot of the British names over.
Yeah. It's so funny. In America, it's like all of our East Coast names are just English names. All of our like
York, New York.
Yeah. All of our like Southwest, Western things are literally like all Spanish. All of our Southern things are like French, and like so many of them are all Native American too.
We all just take it from something else.
It's just so funny whenever they're like, "Oh, New York," I'm like, "Oh yeah, like York," but it's new.
Yes, it's New York. Anyway, sorry, not to distract. Yeah. But so Bedford dies. He's old. He's sick. They were only married for about 2.5 years. So yeah, she's 19 and a half at this point. She becomes the sole heiress in his entire will, which means as a woman in the what are we in now? The 1430s. Yeah. She owns land. She has income. He owned land in both England and in France. So she's doing pretty well.
Right.
She's wealthy, and she still has her title as a royal duchess. That's a big deal in England. Awesome. Yeah, badass.
And it is kind of cool that women in this era, like again, even though obviously your rights weren't as expansive as men's rights, if you did marry someone who was prominent like a duke, and then you marry someone again who's of lesser status, you still keep your original status, which is cool. So like basically the highest status you achieve is what you keep throughout your whole life, unless there's, issues, unless you get stripped of titles.
Yeah. Typically, a woman would marry up in her rank. And that was the whole purpose of being a woman, right? The parents, her mother wanted her to marry up, do well for herself, do well for the family, and then gain in title. Very rarely, if ever, would a woman marry down in her rank.
Exactly.
That's just exactly what happened here.
Which is so fascinating because I think that proves that Jacquetta was marrying for love a second time.
Yes.
Because
For love.
yeah, first marriage, says she's 17 years old. She marries this old duke. I think he was 26 years older than her. And again, like ill health. And then here she is after the marriage, 19 years old, and she marries Richard Woodville, who is probably in his mid 20s. From certain accounts, he's extremely handsome. And he's, again, of lowly class. He came from the gentry. He has no title. Like, she's like, yeah, I like this guy.
Yeah. I mean, again, to recap, his father was the
Mhm.
chamberlain to the Duke.
Mhm.
His father also served Henry V and Thomas, Duke of Clarence. So he had some experience of servitude in his belt. But again,
Right.
he's not a noble. He's serving the nobles. This is a really big deal that Elizabeth marries him, and they do it in secret.
They do. I was just gonna say they had a secret ceremony. So she was supposed to have received permission from King Henry VI, but because they had this secret ceremony and she never asked and didn't tell anyone either after it happened, they eventually were found out and then they were fined £1,000.
I mean, they knew he would say no.
Right.
They knew, again, Jacquetta is Henry VI's aunt. Why would he allow his aunt to marry someone in servitude, someone in gentry?
Yeah.
Absolutely. So they did, yeah, they did in secret. And here's the kicker. So when he was so pissed off, he was so mad to find this out that completely she ruined all the plans of marriage. That dowry I talked about, how she got everything,
Oh,
he
yeah.
took it all away. And he said, no, 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 you're not going to get this dowry. Like, you are not worthy. Guess what? You wanted to marry Richard Woodville. You get his income now. This is what you're going to live as.
Which
So
was nothing.
They had, yeah, nothing. They had everything wiped.
Mhm.
That's when they put in a petition. They pleaded, like, please, can I get my dowry? Come on. Like, don't be a jerk about this. Come on, give me my money. That is my money.
Right.
And yeah, then yeah, exactly. The fine was £1,000, which was a lot
That's
because
still a lot.
he agreed to giving her about a third of her dowry.
Mhm.
Still pretty shitty. Okay. Which was £4,000. So imagine 1,000 of it
Right.
you got to pay back. So,
It's a bummer. So
Sad
yeah, a quarter
move.
of what you actually get. Yeah. It's like taxes.
Would you do that? Would you marry for love, knowing that you would lose
I mean,
everything?
okay, and the next part of what we're gonna say, I mean, yes, I would because she still maintains income from a lot of the lands and everything. So, and even aside from that, you've already like attained a good way of life. Like you already have a great title, you already have some money, even if it's not an extraordinary amount of money. Like I've always been a person that I'm like, I truly like money can't buy you happiness. Like it can buy you a certain lifestyle, but if you're not surrounded by people you truly enjoy spending your time with, like, is it worth it? Like, are you that obsessed with material goods that the money, I don't know, makes a difference? I think you just need enough money to be comfortable. And then the rest should be like, do what you want. I just don't think,
Yeah.
I would never marry a billionaire who's awful personally.
It's hard because it was such a different time. That was really brave of her to do when
Mhm.
no one was doing that. So I don't know. I think to know that you'd have to be in secret and get like, in
Right.
trouble for it.
It says a lot about her
It
character.
does. It
Mhm.
says a lot about her character.
Right.
Speaking of her character,
Oh.
there well, it's funny how like which version you're reading of it. Like, for example, this book is called Royal Witches.
Mhm.
Yes, people believe she was a witch. She was accused of witchcraft later on in her life.
Right.
Of course, take that for what it is, how much she just leaned into more spiritualness and
Mhm.
whatnot. But she, again, interesting woman.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
I like this thread, and we're going to come back to it with the whole witchcraft thing because it does follow her and her entire life. But despite the couple's rocky start, they really do prosper again, thanks to Jacquetta's good standing with the royal family. Like, even though she had this tiny spat with the king about her marriage, overall, she's still earning about £7,000 to £8,000 a year.
Not bad.
I know. So again, like, okay, you had $1,000 fine, you took a lot of your dowry, but at the same time, you're still making money
Yeah.
just by having your lands. And Richard Woodville, in the meantime, he's starting to climb through his military status. So again, that comes with a little bit of money. It comes with a ton of honor. He proves he's a capable soldier. He goes off to certain battles in France. He suppresses some rebellions in England. Like through all of that, he proves that he's a reliable, good soldier, good husband, that he's doing what he can to improve his rank. And again, he's showing his loyalty to the crown as well. So it doesn't take long for Sir Richard, because he's a knight, Sir Richard Woodville, to become Baron Richard in 1448. And King Henry VI is the one that does that for him, which
Hmm.
is great. Again, that he wasn't super impressed with his background and where he came from, but within a short amount of time, he becomes a baron. So it is a pretty quick rise.
Yeah, Knight of Garter, Henry VI, like it was a good situation,
Yeah.
right? It was good.
Hmm.
Let's kind of talk about Henry VI, what happens to him, and
Right.
this is one of those tangents of the rumblings of what's going on with the Wars of the Roses.
Yes.
So Henry VI is on the throne. He's married to Margaret of Anjou, who Jacquetta is very close with.
Right.
She accompanied Margaret of Anjou when she was traveling overseas to marry Henry VI.
Hmm.
They were friends. So Henry VI gets some bad news that basically he lost territory, he lost land, and he took the news really bad.
Hmm.
So bad he went into a catatonic state.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is he stopped talking, he stopped moving, he was basically in a stupor.
Right.
Like no one knew what was wrong with him. He couldn't eat on his own, he couldn't do anything. He just sat there and drooled.
I'm not gonna lie, I've always heard of catatonic state. I truly don't know what that means medically. Is it like psychosis? You know what I mean? Like,
It's definitely a mental issue. I have no
yeah,
idea.
I know that you're pretty much like, again, you can't really function. Um, but
It's so bizarre.
yeah, and
It's super weird.
I don't know how temporary it is. Maybe it differs person to person, but it's not good for your king to be in that
It's not.
state.
And of course, people see
Yeah.
him then as this weak creature
Right.
who can't, I mean, he literally can't do anything. And Margaret Anjou, this woman, she is also an incredible woman. I mean, she is fighting for England. She's fighting for her country
Hmm.
in the name of her husband. She even presents a bill of 5 articles trying to convince everyone to agree for her to be official regency of England, but having power to be able to control the Privy Seal, all of these basically being not just queen consort, but trying to gain some power over England while her husband's completely incapable.
Right.
In this time too, she also gives birth to a son named Edward. We're
Shock-
gonna call him
Shocking.
Prince of Wales, though.
I like that. That's easier to remember for this story.
He is Edward, Prince of Wales.
Hmm.
She presents him to her catatonic husband, who's just like, "Ugh."
Nice.
And it's difficult because technically the king was supposed to recognize his son as being legitimate and give him titles and all of that. It
Which is very important in this era.
doesn't
Because
happen.
yeah, and like you have to think about it too. Like you have to recognize him as the rightful heir. You're not just saying like, "Oh, that's my son." Sure, it's like at this point, maybe you have mistresses who also have children. Like you have to be very specific with who is your rightful heir to the throne, who has power, who doesn't, who's illegitimate. Like it's very strange in this era, but you have to be very clear. And when you're catatonic, you can't be that clear.
It's messy, right? Luckily,
Yeah.
Christmas Day, 1454, the king woke up.
Woke up.
He just, okay.
He snapped out of it.
I, I have lots of opinions and thoughts that I won't get into. So that's just some background to understand King Henry VI a little bit. And then it was really at this point then where the battle began, 1455.
Yeah.
The Wars of the Roses broke out. How do I simplify the Wars of the Roses?
It is a lot. Like, it's a lot. When you look at every single thing that happens and every single betrayal and allegiance, it's a lot to take in. I think, and I'll let you explain kind of your take because I feel like you know so much more about this. But
I don't know about that. Don't give me any. Don't please.
Megan's the expert.
I am not the expert.
But what I was going to say was, Game of Thrones was largely inspired by the War of Roses, and it's because it's about essentially one family that's splintered off into so many different like sub families that you now have infighting, and you're not really sure who the rightful ruler is because this is the eldest son, but their son's not fit to rule. And like, you go into so many different parts of it where it gets very complicated. So that's what the War
Oh,
of the Roses is like essentially the Yorks versus the Lancasters and who is supposed to be on the throne in the House of Plantagenets.
it
But you
all
can go ahead.
starts with Edward the Third,
Mm-hmm.
and it's the you're either supportive of the you're a Lancastrian or you're a Yorkist, the Lancasters or the Yorks. The Lancasters are represented by red roses, the Yorks by the white roses. If that
Right.
helps with anything, probably not. Okay, this is like the basic outline of it. It goes Edward the Third, then goes to Richard the Second. His cousin Henry the Fourth was like, hell no, and takes the crown. Richard the Second dies. It goes to Henry the Fifth. This is all on the
Lancaster
yeah,
side.
the Lancaster side. Then it goes back and forth even more so. Eventually ends up with Henry the Sixth, and now the question comes down, okay, well, he has Edward, Prince of Wales,
Mm-hmm.
but there's a man named Richard Neville who is he's relevant to our story, so that's why I'm bringing him up.
Right.
He's the Earl of Warwick, and he is fighting for Edward the Fourth to be on the throne because he is a Yorkist, and Edward the Fourth is a York.
Mm-hmm.
And that's basically, I am very much simplifying this. There's a lot more that happens,
Right.
but all you need to know right now is the Wars of the Roses is still happening, but Edward the Fourth is the king.
Yes.
He is a York.
He's the new king.
New
Because
king.
remember, we just had Henry VI.
Oh, I'm so sorry. What happened to Henry the Sixth? You're like, now you're jumping. Henry the Sixth dies, but like kind of crazy. In a battle, he's imprisoned. He's sent to the Tower of London.
Right.
He's no longer catatonic. His wife, Margaret of Anjou, and his son, Prince of Wales, they're in exile.
Mm-hmm.
Yada, yada, yada. Sorry, I'm making it sound boring. It's actually really, that's why there's so many books and movies about this, and you can just go into so many different facets of the family, and everyone has their own story. Henry VI is imprisoned because of all of the back and forth and who becomes king, and it's all just a game.
Yes.
They imprison him of crowns, Game of Crowns. They imprison Henry VI. He's in the Tower of London and conveniently dies.
Right. Under very mysterious circumstances.
Records will show it was natural. Many believe he was murdered. It was just way too convenient to do away with him.
Right. So bringing that back to Richard Woodville's story. So again, 1455 is when the War of Roses breaks out, right? And Richard Woodville was originally aligned with the Lancastrian part of this war, but he becomes a Yorkist because he realizes the Lancastrian line, which is the Henry line we're talking about, the catatonic king, he starts to think this is kind of a lost cause over here. There's one big defeat, and I'm sorry if I say this wrong, but defeat at Taunton, where, yeah, you know us. So there's this big defeat that makes him realize, like, I think I picked the loser. So he wants to be a winner. Like, who doesn't in history? Yeah. So he wants to go over to the Yorkist side. So there's the newly crowned Yorkist king, which is Edward IV. And Richard Woodville essentially arranges his daughter, Elizabeth Woodville, to marry the new king of the Yorks.
This is so much scandal. Did they meet passing by in the forest, which some stories will tell us?
Maybe.
We like to believe that story.
Like Cinderella.
Yeah, that she was just with her two sons from a previous marriage. She was married to John Grey first.
Yeah. So she was Elizabeth Grey. I was making a joke. I was like, not quite Elizabeth Black.
You're just Elizabeth Grey is the first series.
Yeah,
and then it turns into Elizabeth.
We get darker. 50 Shades of Grey.
50 Shades of Elizabeth.
Be here all night.
Is that what this episode is going to be called?
No.
50 Shades of Elizabeth.
Let's not. We'll think of a clever title soon. But so the year is 1464 when this marriage happens, and shocker, it's also a secret wedding.
Kind of love that for them.
I kind of like it in general in this era. We see this quite a few times. I think in the 14th, 15th century, 16th century. It's like, I don't know if it's like again, because they're doing it for love and they're embarrassed of the title aspect, or if they just know there's so much controversy over
Yes.
alliances.
People won't approve it.
Yeah, so I kind of like the idea of just like, hey, secret marriage
Very
on
romanticized.
Saturday.
And this is the part of medieval history that feels romantic. I think this is why we have these fantasies of the battles and the love, and it's for the princess. This is where this is the true Disney princess story.
A little bit.
You know, Edward the Fourth is king. He falls in love with this woman who's a quite frankly like a nobody. Like, she's got some ties to things, and yeah, her father's got some titles and whatnot, but
Right.
in the grand scheme of things, she's not of any measure to be like
Yeah.
worthy to be marrying a king.
And he was warned. I mean, it's not like he was naive about that. He was warned, like, hey, this Elizabeth Woodville is not your same status. She's not a queen or princess from another land. Like,
Yeah.
like this isn't not going to work. So, secret ceremony.
Secret ceremony. The way that her mother married down, she married way up.
Oh, yeah.
Married way up. The ceremony was in their like local little church. It was just her father actually didn't even know at the time. Her mother was a witness, the officiate was a witness, and then it was Edward and Elizabeth. They spent a charming little week
Yeah.
in their cottage to like honeymoon.
It was consummated, confirmed by the mother.
And then outrage
Mhm.
when people found out that it's just like a Cinderella story.
Yeah,
It really, oh my God, it's a Cinderella story.
kind of, yeah.
Yeah. I'm just thinking of Ever After when they're all shocked that
Yeah,
she
I will
marries
speak
her.
for her. I love Ever After. Anyway, but this is all great for Richard Woodville because in March, 1466, so 2 years after the marriage took place, the secret marriage, he was then appointed to Lord Treasurer of England. And on that same year in May, he was made first Earl Rivers. And this is important, I think, because we talk about a lot of passing downs of titles, right? Where you're like, oh, the something Duke of Norfolk and like the Duke of Somerset and whatever. And you kind of inherit these titles, and there's the first and the second and the third. But when you're the first of a new, I don't know what you call it. Is it a house? Is it a
Territory? A county? A county?
maybe? Yeah. But
Because
like,
there are locations.
right. So like an area.
Well, someone educate us.
I know. Someone tell us exactly what
Someone
that means.
will. We will. It's fine. I love
Don't
it.
worry.
I love the feedback. Bring it on.
We'll be corrected. But when you're the first of anything, right, that means like someone carved out a specific position for you. Like,
Yeah.
you didn't inherit this from a father. Like, you didn't just come into this title over time. Someone made this first distinction, first title for you.
Well, heck yeah. His son-in-law is the freaking king now.
Yeah.
He just
Well,
skyrocketed.
it's just, yeah, a very big, like, rose to another stratosphere type of thing. And not only does he stop there, he doesn't just stop at first Earl Rivers, he then becomes the Constable of England in 1467. So just a year after all those other titles. And then he's able to give his children all these advantageous marriages. Because his first few children, the older children, it was like, again, oh, Elizabeth Woodville, you're not worthy of the king, blah, blah. But as like the children, he had 14 kids with Jacquetta.
Jacquetta
Richard.
was busy.
Yeah, they had a lot of children. So all, like, I won't say all, but many of those kids were just like, okay, these are the family you want to marry into now. This is the big new rising family. So he was able to arrange tons of advantageous marriages for his kids. I say tons because there's so many kids.
Quite. And for that day and age, I think there was 12 who ended up surviving.
I think, yeah.
The statistics alone on that are impressive.
Mhm.
Because I don't know, we think back to other queens and stories of just how difficult it was to not only give birth, but to have a living child and have someone to, your lineage to continue on.
Right.
That was such a struggle for so many people. It's always been a struggle, right, for so many people. But then to see Jacquetta, some people accused her
witchcraft comes back at this point
as why they were so successful with all of this.
Because it's like, okay, Jacquetta, you marry wealthy and then he dies, and then you marry for love, and now your family is just skyrocketing through the social classes.
Now your daughter's the Queen of England.
Yeah, now
How
your daughter
the heck
is the
does that
Queen of
happen?
England. and all your kids get these advantageous marriages, beyond just surviving childhood. It's crazy. Like, it's like that would, if you were a jealous person, be like, witch. She's a witch. Like,
She's a witch.
you can't just get this stuff naturally. So again, more accusations of witchcraft going around. Jaquetta's kind of peripheral, but that doesn't mean everything was hunky dory for them. It doesn't mean everything just went along swimmingly, because soon, when you get this much success, you're bound to have a rival.
Mm-hmm.
And we mentioned the rival earlier, but Richard Neville, the Earl of Warwick, who fancied himself the kingmaker, literally because he was the one deciding who was supposed to be on the throne. He's the one that comes forward and says, you know what, this upstart family who shouldn't even be here in the first place has no right to guide the king, should have no power in this dynasty, should have no power over England. So he is the first one to kind of come forward and say, I'm putting an end to this.
Also, yes, if Kingmaker sounds familiar, if you're thinking of Philippa Gregory's book, The Kingmaker's Daughter, it is one of the same. Same guy. Same
Love
dude.
Philippa Gregory. Anyway, so Richard Neville, Earl of Warwick, Kingmaker, he leads this rebellion in 1469. So this is only 2 years after Earl Rivers, Richard Woodville, becomes the Constable of England. So he ends up defeating King Edward IV's army at the Battle of Edgecote.
Yes.
Open for interpretation with that spelling. So he officially is standing up to King Edward. He's standing up to Richard Woodville. And in that time, during that battle, he ends up capturing both Richard Woodville and his son John. And they're taken to this place called, again, sorry for the pronunciation, but he gets taken to Chepstow.
Which is in Kensleworth. I saw that name thrown around.
Sure.
Yes, England. They're in England.
So, and throughout this time, the Rivers clan, the Woodville family really falls from grace. So the Rivers estates are plundered. All of these people that are really loyal to Warwick and probably a little jealous of the Woodville rise to fame, their only intention is to really just destroy this quote unquote upstart family. So again, estates plundered, everyone kind of separated, it's a terrible time for the family. And Woodville himself, Richard Woodville, because he's the head of the family, is accused of deceitful, covetous rule and guiding. And I'm not sure what that means, but I think it essentially means, yeah, it's rule and guiding. And I think it means he's, trying to rule what he can of England. And if he's not doing that, he's at least guiding the king to whatever. So this reminds me a lot of our episode about the Black Dinner.
Oh.
Where it's all of a sudden someone comes into the frame that might take over in the future and whose family might take over in the future. So you have to just cut it off. How can we make sure that they are kind of nipped in the bud and they don't grow any further? And this is it after they had 14 children. So Earl Rivers, Richard Woodville, and his son John are then executed swiftly without a trial.
No trial.
Yeah.
Seems like that should be illegal.
Exactly. The date is August 12th, 1469. And this happens in New Coventry at Gosford Green, which I believe is in that same area we just referenced.
Yes.
So it was again, there's so little detail about what actually happened. We just know a little bit about the accusations, essentially saying you're seizing power. And during this tumultuous time of War of the Roses, kind of anything goes. If I think they believed a lot in the divine right to rule. So they believed if you suppress your enemies, if you come forward as the victor, you're kind of destined to rule. I think that was a big belief back then of I think there's a legitimate claim to the throne that I have. And if I come forward as the victor, I get the throne, period.
And that's how a lot of it went down.
Mm-hmm.
That's how Henry oh gosh, I'm going back now. Yeah, Henry the Fourth took over Richard the Second, and then Edward the Fourth took the throne when it could have been Edward, Prince of Wales. He dies at battle when he's 17.
Yep.
And then not to spoil alert it, but to fast forward a little bit,
Right.
once Edward the Fourth is gone and he dies, that's where it turns into Richard the Third. His brother finally gets the crown, and that's how we end up with Henry the Seventh. Then
The Tudor
the
dynasty.
Tudor dynasty defeated Richard III on the Battle of Bosworth, which ended the Wars of the Roses, and the Tudor dynasty started because Henry VII claimed his Lancastrian line, which was weak. It was
very
weak lineage.
Yeah.
But he had a lot of supporters who made a fair argument that he had just as much claim to the crown, but he had the power and the physicalness of actually overthrowing King Richard III.
Exactly.
Anyway, that was a fast forward of what happens, but to kind of reflect back, that was the way that they would have to the way that they would win would be to imprison, execute, or kill on the battlefield.
Mm-hmm. And we see this throughout time. And again, we won't get into too much of the future things that happen because the story's about Richard Woodville. But we do see it with King Henry VIII's paranoia of like who's out to get him and his obsession with having a son and solidifying his line. And then same thing with his daughter Elizabeth I when she's on the throne of like, oh, Queen Mary of, or Mary Queen of Scots has like a claim somewhat to this throne. So I have to make sure she's suppressed.
Yeah.
It's like there's such a paranoia that exists throughout the centuries because again, they believe the rightful person to rule will eventually win. So they're constantly trying to guard their success. They're trying to constantly prove that they're supposed to be on the throne, and that's by a lot of violence and a lot of killing and a lot of execution. And it's a very scary time to oppose a king or queen.
And it makes sense, in my opinion, and this is only my personal opinion, of why Henry VIII was so insecure with his title and was so paranoid, as he said, because with all this messiness, the lineage was not incredibly strong in comparison to the Plantagenets, for example. That's a whole nother episode. But, we're talking about Duke of Clarence side, Margaret Pole. I could go on, and I could just be naming off names and spitting things out, but I realize that's not the purpose of this episode, so I will try to focus. But all that said, it's sad because it was completely just a political move. If you're wondering, what did Richard Woodville do to be beheaded, as well as his son, John? He was just existing and rising and perhaps taking advantage of his newly acclaimed footing in court and royalty and with his daughter. But was he a bad person?
I wouldn't say so.
No,
I mean,
I
again,
don't think so.
Like all you can accuse him of is ambition, and rising too fast with the wrong people on the opposite side.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of real, again, grievances, real accusations, it's like, I think it's a pretty loose case. But just like a lot of things during this time, again, whether we refer to Mary Queen of Scots or Black Dinner or any of these, it's just like you're a threat to the throne, and that's it.
Well, this is where I get confused because typically there needs to be some type of
Trial.
Well, trial, yeah, but the accusation typically comes down to treason, right?
Right.
And they could that's probably what they argued, is that it was treason because it was Lancasters versus York, but he was York and there was a York king, so he wasn't being treasonous to anyone on the throne.
No.
That was his son-in-law who was on the throne. It honestly came down to Warwick and his supporters, who, again, that's what were the charges?
Right.
What were the treason? Okay, treason against who?
Right.
Treason against someone not on the throne? That's where this whole story just turns me over. And you have to think about Elizabeth Woodville. What an odd position for her, because she's queen, and her family's name is being dragged through the mud, and her father and her brother were executed.
Right.
Without, obviously, any say on her side, because that wouldn't have happened.
Yeah.
So it's odd, and I feel for her.
Welcome to the War of Roses.
And that is your first lesson on the Wars of Roses. Tune in next time. I'm just kidding.
We did have a few episodes about War of Roses. You know what I think we should do is we should actually post something on our social media that just highlights all of our Tudor episodes in general.
Ooh.
Just so if you are curious about other family lines here, like other rivalries, other things that happen with the same story, like I think it'd be helpful to just do a quick little. Here's our Tudor episodes to refer to, because again,
Yeah.
they're messy when you look at the broad context. But the more we learn about this over the years, the more we're able to connect things, and it's really helpful
Figure out
for
things too.
us, for our listeners going forward, because it's convoluted.
It is. It's really fun, and I had a few moments of those tonight as we were discussing our notes and trying to get the plan together.
Mhm.
I had a few of those aha moments, like, wait a second,
Right.
that was that person, and I think that's the fun. And personally, that's why I really like this era, when you start to pull back the layers and figure out each section of the family tree and who's who and what their story was.
Mhm.
But I think that we're probably going to have more episodes in this era. So,
Safe to say it was a era of execution, that's for sure.
yes, we've had some, there's more to come. But I think it was really important to look over Richard Woodville and his son, John Woodville, because they were big names during this era
Mhm.
and lost their heads over reasons we still can't explain.
They did, and at the end of the day, I mean, they created a line that would live for a very long time.
Yes.
It's like, even though Richard Woodville's life, and to be clear, he wasn't very young when he was executed. He was probably in his mid 60s.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's not one of those stories. It's like, oh, how tragic he died when he was in his 30s. It's still tragic either
His
way.
son was young.
But
His
his
son
son was
would have
young.
been, what, 20s probably?
Maybe, yeah. Maybe, well, I mean, in that era, maybe 40s.
You think? Yeah,
Maybe
maybe.
he's in his 60s. But regardless,
Oh, I see what you're saying.
yeah, but it's about also the fact that, again, like,
See, he died in 69. Yeah, you're right.
but without Richard Woodville, it's like King Henry VIII is part of his line. You know
Mhm.
what I mean? Like, he's a great grandson of him. So it's like all of these things have ripple effects over time. So it is very interesting to see how it all pieces together.
Yes, and you're totally right. He was 64, so yeah, John would have been not, like, in his 40s.
Right.
Yeah, you're right.
Right.
It just is
Which again, modern day, both of those ages are still young, but back in
back
the
then,
day,
we
I
were
was
not
like,
young.
"Oof."
Oh, it's time to go.
Past your life
Speaking of our
expectancy.
time to go, Elizabeth.
Uh,
Elizabeth Black.
yes. That's me.
That's
Easy.
you. There's so many Elizabeths, not Elizabeth Gray.
Don't be confused.
Uh, any final words?
I'm gonna go have more of that shepherd's pie we prepared earlier.